Good afternoon, shopkeepers and do-it-yourselfers out there. Today we're working on this 2010 Dodge Charger with a 3.5 V6, and we come in after the spark plugs and decided, well, we'll do a couple other things, but I've already got them in. You got to take the intake manifold off the upper intake plenum to get to the passenger side 3. And when you do that, you take this off the intake. Obviously, we're going to kind of go backwards. Clean up your lower intake surface where your intake plenum seals onto that. Make sure that you don't drop anything down in them holes. That would not be good. Also, your EGR tube is back here. There's a seal that goes on there, and when I took this off, I don't know, that seal probably fell down into the intake manifold. I don't know, I couldn't find it. Maybe it's down there somewhere, but the seal on the manifold was bad, so I got a new one, and with it came a new seal for your EGR tube. I don't know that that's supposed to be that loose, but where it fastens in down there, it's not loose there. It probably just wore out. But anyway, we're just gonna ignore that because that's not part of the problem. Anyway, the bottom of the intake, I've already replaced the seal, and it only goes on one way. Then there's nothing else to replace. But to connected to the manifold, there's a vent for your PCV, and then you got well, wait a minute, let's see. I'm not sure which one of those is. I think that one there is your PCV, the big one, and then that small one, yeah, that's your purge canister, the small one right here, and then that one goes over to your brake booster. So you got to get those off, and they plug in on your manifold back here. And this bracket here, somebody's had this apart before, and both of them bolts on the bottom of the bracket was gone. I could only find one bolt in my selection that fit it right, but it really needs to have a bolt, at least one down there holding this, to help support this side of the intake manifold so it doesn't stress it. There's not a lot of weight in this manifold, but going down the road and it bouncing pretty hard sometimes, I could see where it would cause a problem. But anyway, make sure if you do spark plugs that you get your coils back in and get your connectors back on. And we're going to pretend like you watch us take it apart. Now we're going to put it back together. So we're going to turn the manifold over, and you see that I've replaced that seal. And the seal has, like any other seal, let's see, it's got it's tapered on this side and it's blunt on that side. I can't get my camera to focus, but you want to put this on there where it goes on like this, where the bullet point goes in this way. That way, as it draws vacuum, these ears will pull up tight. And if you try to put it in that way, it's going to fold the seal over and you're going to have a vacuum leak. So put it on, there you go. Put it on like, it goes on the tube. It goes on the tube like that. And it goes into the manifold with the bullet point. So let me get the manifold turned over. And when you set it down in there, you want to kind of lower the back, and so you catch your EGR valve, or the EGR tube rather. And I don't know if you saw that, but let me get the light in there. Okay, I'm just gonna grab a hold of that pipe and just kind of pull it inward. There it went in, okay? And that's pretty much it. And check and make sure that you're lined up here at the front. And we don't have anything in the way. So we'll start threading these bolts in. There's 2, 4, 6, 7 bolts that actually hold the manifold down, and we're not going to use the impact on them. I like to use my 3/8 ratchet like this. I'll bend it over like that, hold the handle up, and I'll hold my other hand down here and rotate it like this, but I can't do it with one hand holding the camera. But just kind of go through and give each bolt a few turns. Now, I've got all 7 bolts started. And you can see it's still loose. I don't have them tight. This is a good time to go around and check and make sure you don't have anything caught under the manifold. Your map sensor, it just kind of clips down. I haven't taken one of these out, but I suppose that there's a little O-ring in there that holds that, kind of secures that in. And your intake runner valve system, there's the connector for that. Push that little connector lock protector back in. And on this side of the engine, there are 2 brackets, like the one over there on the throttle body. But these, you just got little stick brackets. There you see one here, and this one right here. And they come up here and go into those studs. And to loosen them, to get the manifold off, you have to loosen. There's a 15mm head bolt down here on both of the bottom. I didn't take them out. I just loosened them. But if you want to take them out and remove those rods all the way, be my guest. But I don't like to take stuff apart completely. I just like to take it apart just far enough to get the job done. So I'm going to go ahead and put that nut on, and then I'm going to put, if I do it with one hand, yeah, let's see. Okay, I got them started, and all I wanted to do is just not tighten them, but just get them started. And this front one down here, because there's another cross bracket there, this other cross bracket right there, you can't get a socket on there, so you have to use a wrench. That's a 15mm, and that one there is a 15mm, but you can use a ratchet. I used a 15mm shallow socket on my flexible 3/8 ratchet. That's the wrong socket there, but and then I can reach down in there and loosen that. Once you get them loose and loosen these nuts up here at the top, you should be able to get your hand down in there and spin that bolt out about 3 or 4 turns, and that'll give it enough slack where it'll drop off of this stud. And so we got nothing else to connect on this side. All we got left over here on this side, obviously we still got to tighten the manifold down, but you can see that valve is, or not valve, that tube is up in there all the way. And well, let's see, where's my vacuum lines? There's the one back here. And that hose is a little kind of cooked. It's brittle. It could break. If it does, you'll have to, you know, go to the store and get you some vacuum line. That one goes there, and that one goes there. They're different size, so they won't go on the wrong way. I don't guess it really matter. And before you put the bracket on the throttle body, you want to plug that one in and push the connector lock protector on, and then shove that up on there, that bracket. and put the 10mm nuts on there. And when we get that tight, get the bolts, the 7 bolts down the middle tight, then we'll tighten these brackets up. Because we want all of the tension to be there in the middle, and then just supported out here on this side and that side. We don't want to tighten it and then try to pull it down in the middle and have it where it's not laying flat. So you want to be aware of that. But when we tighten that down, that I put at factory, it should be a 15mm bolt, but there's one here. That one is slotted and the one in the back is not. It's not slotted. The hole in the bracket, but I put a 13mm head bolt in there. It's all I had, but it fits it. It's got the right thread pitch and all. But I'll tighten that down so this bracket will be secure, and then the throttle body will be supported by this bracket so it won't vibrate and potentially crack the housing. That's really the only reason why it's there. And the proper torque on these bolts is just Gudentite, German torque specs. But just kind of go through and even them down and kind of start from the middle and work your way out. And make sure you get all of your connectors on. To get the manifold off, your transmission oil dipstick tube just clips in right here, and it sticks up about this to this level, just like flush with the bottom of my finger. And you can't, there's not enough room to get the manifold up over the top of it, because it's, kind of big around like that, and it won't clear the top of the tube and the bottom of the engine cowling area. So I go to the bottom under the car and remove the tube. Here's the tube. It's got one 8mm head bolt that goes in right there. Some of them, that bracket, instead of being where the bolt goes down, it goes sideways into the transmission case, but this one is not that way. That's not the case. But anyway, just put it down in there through that hole area, and well, let's see. I can see through this space here, right through there. I can see, we'll go underneath in a minute, but I can see that we're in the general vicinity of where it needs to go. So that's up there where it needs to be. Now we're underneath the car, and there you can see the dipstick tube as I've got it down here. There's where the bolt goes in, but the tube is actually setting pretty close to where it's supposed to. Where's it? There. It goes in right there. Get it kind of plumbed up, going straight up and down, and just put your finger on top of that flange where the bolt goes in and just pull it down. And you got one. I don't know where it is. There it is. See? Little bitty bolt. And that's the only thing that secures it, is just that one little bolt. And you need to get your 1/2-inch impact and really tighten that down, like 150 foot-pounds or so. It's crucial. Get your torque wrench and your torque multiplier, and no, don't do that. Okay, I got the bolt tight down in there. Just kind of roll that forward and put it right in there in that clip. So the dipstick tube is secured down on the transmission, and it's in the little clip. Now I'm going to go ahead and get all these tight, these 7. And yeah, I wished I had a way to hold my phone up. Maybe this will work, maybe it won't. And somebody might want to watch me do it. There's one. I just barely started to bottom it out. That's all I wanted to do. I don't want to put tension on it. I just want to make sure I'm coming in even on them. And then we'll start over in the middle and start applying some tension on them bolts. And like I said, just German torque specs, good and tight. And that's all we need. So you get the deal. And I'll finish tightening them and we'll get back with you. And I got all them bolts tight there on the center of the manifold. I'm just stick my hand down in there and grab that back bolt with my fingers. I can turn that bolt about three turns and draw it up kind of snug. And then I put my ratchet on it and draw it up snug, and then I'll get a 4-foot piece of cheater pipe and put on my ratchet. No, it won't. That's tight enough. That's all it needs to be. And the front, because I can't use a socket, I just put my hand down there and I can tighten that bolt up a little bit. And then I use a wrench, because you can't get a socket in there because of that other bracket. Turn it a little bit, rotate your wrench, and because you can't get much of a turn, you gotta put it on that way and get a little bit, and then turn your wrench over, put it on and get another little bit, like an eighth of a turn at a time. It's a pain, but you don't have to tighten it very much like this, so it only takes you a minute. Now once those are tight, then you can tighten those 10mm nuts up there on them tops of the brackets. And it's pretty elementary. I don't know if you guys get a lot of telemarketer calls, but dadgummit, I'd almost vote for Joe Biden if he'd say that he'd outlaw telemarketing. But there's more things in this country and this world that's more important to telemarketers, but dadgummit. Anyway, those are tight. The vacuum lines are secure. The dipstick tube is secure. There's only one runner motor. Some of them have dual runners. They got one there and one there, but this one doesn't have it. This is a 2010 model. I don't know which ones do and which ones don't, but this one don't. Oh well, I guess you can't get that back spark plug with the intake manifold. You can only get to 2 of them. You can't, so 4 of them. But anyway, we took it off and did all 6 of them. It's got 179,000 miles on it, probably original spark plugs. They were burned up. And when you see a lot of evidence, there was a lot of like hood insulation, but I don't see that the hood insulation is chewed up. There's a little spot there, but that's probably just damage. But you'll see where rodents have been up in there, but there was a bunch of garbage up here in the top of the manifold. When you see that, And you see this garbage here? And if you've got check engine lights and stuff like that, maybe it says you got a bad map sensor or something, don't just come in there and say, well, I got a code for map sensor, it's got a bad map sensor. You see that? Start looking at your wires, because them dadgum rodents, they eat through the wires. This one had performance issues, and we did a couple things, but I wanted to replace the spark plugs because they were original. But while I had it off, I checked to make sure all of the coil plug wires were good, and the fuel injectors. There's your fuel injector connector right there. But I checked all of them to make sure that, at least what I could see, nothing was chewed up. Well, I got those finger tight, and I'm going to tighten that bolt down there at the bottom, and then I'll tighten these, and then we'll put the air intake tube on. Okay. It's a loud engine. We got the nuts tight, put the upper intake, or the intake tube on, got both clamps tight, put the intake air temperature sensor connector on, and secured the, I guess that's like a bypass bleeder, I don't know what the actual term is, coolant hose back in the little loom, and everything is secure, and we're good to go. If you have a drivability, you know, it really runs crappy and sucking air, check and make sure that your EGR tube is up inside the manifold like it should be. There's nothing that holds it. It just kind of lays up in there. Of course, it should not be loose down there in the bottom in the EGR valve like that one was, but it'll have a little bit of movement to it. But anyway, this one is secure. It was secure when it got here, so it's secure when it leaves. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Share, like, and subscribe.